Today I will recap the third part, but if you haven't seen its previous part yet, then watch it first. You will find its link in the description. On the way to the hospital, the driver initiates a conversation with Zhu Fei. He says that Chu Jian often mentions about him. Zhu Fei shows up his surprise on hearing this. The driver explains that not only he but all the domestic servants in the Xia family have seen his photo. After all, Chu Jian has been waiting for him to come to the house to find her. She was afraid that the servants would neglect him because they didn't know him. Zhu Fei feels pleased to hear that his senior sister has done so much for him, but he kept on ignoring her feelings. Zhu Fei arrives at the hospital and takes a look at the name of the hospital. He gets to know that his senior sister's family runs this hospital. He always knew that the Xia family was rich, but he didn't think they could be this rich. Chu Jian calls out for him, and she's delighted to see him here. Zhu Fei comes straight down to business. He presents before her the ginseng. But Chu Jian has different plans. She tells him that he shouldn't give her the ginseng here. Instead, come in with her. She wants everyone to know that it was her junior brother who saved her grandpa. Zhu Fei knows that Chu Jian's mother doesn't like him and understands her mother's concern. After all, this is wild ginseng and it's rare and precious. Chu Jian comforts him, saying that she has never doubted that her junior brother would lie to her. If the ginseng is fake, it's most likely that junior brother has seen it wrong. Zhu Fei gets emotional and hugs his senior sister. Chu Jian had never expected her junior brother to be so proactive. She just wants her junior brother's heart, nothing else matters here. As long as Zhu Fei can think of her, she doesn't care about anything else. Chu Jian asks him whether he experienced something yesterday that she doesn't know about. Zhu Fei is startled. How come his senior sister knows about his crossing over? It was just a wild guess by Chu Jian because she knew that if nothing had happened, her junior brother wouldn't have grown up so fast. Zhu Fei is about to make up a lie but fails as Chu Jian's mother enters into the scene. She is furious as she sees her daughter in the arms of Zhu Fei. She yells at Zhu Fei to get away from Chu Jian. Zhu Fei fumbles looking at Chu Jian's mother, but he manages to introduce himself and tries hard to clear out the situation. Chu Jian cuts him off and tells her mother that Zhu Fei is her boyfriend. She has almost graduated from the university, and there's nothing wrong with being close to her boyfriend. Chu Jian's mother doesn't seem to care whether Zhu Fei is her boyfriend or not. Whatever she says is not going to be counted. Zhu Fei struggles but finally gathers enough of courage to show the ginseng to Chu Jian's mother, which he had picked yesterday. Chu Jian's mother challenges her daughter by telling her to wait and that she'll show her how the man she values is deceiving her. Chu Jian's mother declares that she will show this ginseng to President Wang now. President Wang is a veteran of the Chinese medicine world, and no inferior Chinese medicine can escape from his eyes. She warns him by saying that if she finds out that Zhu Fei is fooling them with fake goods, he will never be able to come near Chu Jian in the future. As soon as Chu Jian's mother gets the ginseng, she gives it to President Wang to examine its quality. President Wang, being a professional, immediately starts scanning the piece of ginseng. President Wang tells them that in all his years of practicing medicine, he has never seen such fine wild ginseng. Chu Jian's mother is astonished by his statement. President Wang declares that the quality is quite good, and he'll immediately make arrangements to administer the medicine to Xia Lao. Zhu Fei feels relieved, and Chu Jian hugs him, thanking him for her grandpa. Chu Jian's mother pulls Chu Jian onto her side within a second and tells Zhu Fei that he did nothing great by saving Xia Lao. She tells him to just say how much money he wants and that the Xia family will not bargain. Chu Jian burns with anger as soon as she hears this statement from her mother. She confronts her mother and asks her whether she is going to give Zhu Fei money for the ginseng. Her mother responded to Chu Jian by enlightening her that he has always been chasing her for her good looks and her Xia family's money. She continues to insult Zhu Fei, saying that she has done a background check on him and that he's from the lowest class. He himself is not capable of anything and has spent his life relying on flattering women, and he plans to do this all his life. Zhu Fei gets annoyed and tells her that he is well aware that his family conditions are not good. He is mediocre and not good enough for his senior sister, but he still has dignity, and Chu Jian's mother can never tramp it. Zhu Fei excuses himself by telling Chu Jian that he still has something to do and tells her to take good care of her grandpa. Chu Jian was to go behind him, but her mother holds her up and doesn't let her go. A second later, an assistant informs them that Chairman Xia is awake. Chu Jian and her mother are thrilled to know about it and rush to see him. Meanwhile, Zhu Fei walks out of the hospital and overthinks the matter. According to him, nothing has changed even a bit. What stood in the way of him and his senior sister were still there. Gao Yang was busy with his own thoughts, thinking that the ginseng he bought from the black market at a high price could make him a hero in front of Chu Jian. He will succeed in making an impression on the Xia family, and even if Xia Chu Jian doesn't like him, her family will definitely force her to marry Gao Yang. Both Zhu Fei and Gao Yang fail to notice one another and bang into each other. The box of ginseng flies away from Gao Yang's hand, and he gets angry. Without looking at Zhu Fei, He starts scolding him for walking like a blind person. But as soon as Gao Yang notices that it is Zhu Fei, he is surprised. He starts insulting him, calling him a piece of shit, and asks him he isn't dead yet. Zhu Fei, being super annoyed, tells him that he's dead, but he's back. Zhu Fei punches Gao Yang hard on his chin. Gao Yang falls to the ground. Zhu Fei tells him that he is back to tell you that his senior sister is not a match for a hypocrite like him. Gao Yang is confused and cannot believe the fact that Zhu Fei is still alive. He had clearly seen him falling from the top floor, and his body should have already been disposed of by his members. Zhu Fei gets angry and kicks him. He tells him that he's a ghost that has now returned back to life. He warns Gao Yang by saying that if he still wants to live, then better don't mess with his senior sister and don't provoke him anymore. Hearing the chaos, Chu Jian's mother comes to stop them from fighting. She again insults Zhu Fei and taunts him for being brave for beating someone in front of the Xia hospital. She misunderstands the situation and continues to badmouth about Zhu Fei. She tells him that Chu Jian is young, and that's why she was easily deceived by a violent and hypocritical man like him. As Chu Jian's mother kept humiliating Zhu Fei, Gao Yang gathers himself, but his nose was still bleeding. Gao Yang tells Chu Jian's mother that Zhu Fei is a ghost. Chu Jian's mother is unable to understand his meaning and takes this as a chance to continue mocking Zhu Fei. She tells Gao Yang that he is a ghost and a poor man. She turns towards Gao Yang and asks him whether he is here to deliver the ginseng. Gao Yang replies positively. He sums up by saying that he heard that an auction house in the Western Europe was auctioning off freshly picked ginseng, so he asked his housekeeper to buy it and send it back overnight. Chu Jian's mother gets another chance to humiliate Zhu Fei. She asks him whether he really thinks that he's the savior of the Xia family. Xiao Yang can still help Chu Jian. They don't need his contribution here. Chu Jian's mother shows Zhu Fei a check and tells him that the ginseng was worth 500,000 yuan, and the remaining 500,000 yuan is to stay away from Chu Jian. She advises him to take the check as soon as he sees it and stop thinking about her daughter. Zhu Fei wonders to himself that it was just a piece of root, but it is really a treasure. Chu Jian's mother tells him to take the money and get out. While going back to school, Zhu Fei feels miserable and thinks that now he has taken the money. His senior sister's mother will naturally tell Chu Jian that he was with her only because of her money, and his senior sister will give up on him because of this. Zhu Fei thinks that may be the best outcome. On the way, Zhu Fei's eyes fall on a donation box, and he decides to donate that 1 million yuan that Chu Jian's mother gave him. The man collecting the donation asks him whether he is sure that he wants to donate 1 million. Zhu Fei confirms whether he can donate that much of amount. The man hopes that Zhu Fei can leave his name after donating, as that will make it easier for them to advertise. Zhu Fei figures out that if he studies abroad or on his own, he will definitely be known by others, so he thinks about leaving a name that doesn't exist in this world. So he decides that he will keep the name of Huang Fu Shengmen's man. When Zhu Fei reaches his room, his roommates are concerned about it. They decide to talk it out and ask whether he's feeling good or not. They even confirm that he was fine when he went out, and they inquired further about his mood. His roommates assume that Zhu Fei is feeling low, maybe because of the ginseng matter. They had heard what he said on the phone, and so one of the roommates also asked his family to look for the ginseng, and there will be news soon about it. Zhu Fei assures both of his roommates that they shouldn't bother him. His senior sister's grandfather has gotten better, and he and his senior sister are over. There's nothing going on between them now. Zhu Fei's roommates are worried about him and his senior sister not being together. One of the roommates suggests that it's not like he doesn't know that Zhu Fei has feelings for his senior sister. They decide to stop asking Zhu Fei about it because it will only hurt him more. His roommate gets a tray of drinks and tells him if he's feeling uncomfortable, just have a drink. Zhu Fei ironically tells them that only women affect the speed of his sword draw. The other roommate tries to comfort Zhu Fei and tells him that if his senior sister doesn't like him anymore, that means her eyesight is not good now. The guy with the drinks in his hand tells the other roommate to stop nagging Zhu Fei and instead go downstairs and buy some snacks for them. The other roommate agrees and tells him to take care of Zhu Fei. They then get drunk together and enjoy their night. While everyone is asleep, the golden yellowish light swirls up again, and Zhu Fei is back in his ancient life. He dreams about his senior sister and calls out for her in his sleep. He wakes up in the morning and is shocked to know that he has crossed over to this world again. Zhu Fei is back in the prisoner's cell, and now he starts to wonder what is going to happen. Meanwhile, he hears a scream and gets the news that Lord Marquis is back. Zhu Fei is worried to death. He was set up and locked up in this woodshed. If Shengnan finds out that he crossed his line and betrayed her, he will definitely die. On top of that, Zhu Fei was not only locked up but also chained to prevent him from escaping. He wondered if this was really necessary or if they did it to just fool him. With a fling, the door opened, and there stood the mighty Huang Fu Shengnan. Zhu Fei started sweating badly. He knew it was over. Those housekeepers must have told her everything, and this rigid woman will definitely hack him to death for the sake of her family honor. Zhu Fei starts pleading with Shangnan. He tells him that all of this is a misunderstanding. He asks her whether she will believe him if he says that it was the maid who coveted his beauty. Shangnan is not in the mood to listen to him and unsheathes her sword. Zhu Fei is so scared that he starts crying and begging her to stop and don't kill him. He just wants a chance to explain everything to her. He also reminds her not to be impulsive. Shangnan ignores his cries and wields her sword skillfully. Zhu Fei falls to the ground, aghast, but he's surprised that he's not hurt. His thoughts run wild, wondering whether the knife was too fast or if he was not let to feel the pain. It turns out that she had only cut the chain on his feet. Lao Fu begins to explain the situation, but Shangnan questions him about whether this is his first time managing the Marquis Mansion. Lao Fu manages to reply that he has been in charge of the Marquis Mansion for more than 30 years. Shangnan tells him that since it has been more than 30 years, he should know that even if Zhu Fei has made a mistake, he is still her husband, and when did it become his turn to punish her husband? Uncle Fu bows down on his knees and asks her to calm down. He further explains that Shangnan has always valued the reputation of the Marquis, and he was worried that Zhu Fei's behavior would affect the reputation of the Marquis Mansion. And that's the reason he did all this. Shangnan politely tells Lao Fu that there's no need to explain anything. She believes in her husband, and that maid must have seduced him. She also tells him to expel her from the Marquis Mansion immediately, and now that her husband has entered the Marquis house, Zhu Fei will take care of everything. Shangnan orders Lao Fu to give Zhu Fei the key to the inner treasury. Uncle Fu readily obeys the given orders. Lao Fu presents Zhu Fei with a key and gestures for him to take it. Shangnan tells him that if there's anything he doesn't understand, just ask Lao Fu. She reminds him that he is the biggest in the Marquis Mansion besides her and her grandfather. Zhu Fei can't hide his eagerness. Shangnan assures him that outside the Marquis Mansion, as long as it's not the royal family, whoever dares to offend him, she will always support him. On hearing these words, Zhu Fei is almost blushing and thinks that no wonder girls are so fond of the domineering president. He slowly feels attracted to Shangnan and wonders who on earth can stand such a beautiful and domineering female marquis. Zhu Fei agrees to her arrangements and tells her that he'll just listen to her. He tries calling Shangnan by her name but hesitates. Instead, he calls her Marquis. Shangnan feels that Zhu Fei is very funny. She enlightened him by telling him that only outsiders call her Marquis and that they can call each other by their names. Zhu Fei struggles to call Shangnan by her name but anyhow agrees to it. Shangnan timidly suggests Zhu Fei go to her room, draining all the color from his face. Both Shangnan and Zhu Fei enter the room, and Shangnan starts to undress. She removes her armor first. Zhu Fei gets nervous just by looking at her. He asks her whether he should leave the room. Shangnan answers him and tells him that now they have become husband and wife, and she is in the military, so naturally she doesn't have to be pretentious like other shy ladies out there. Zhu Fei seems to be more culture-bound, but he doesn't have time to think about all this. Shangnan then seriously asks him about what exactly had happened last night. Zhu Fei counter-questioned her, asking whether she didn't know about it already. To this, Shangnan calmly tells him that she only knows about it roughly, she has never heard the details. Zhu Fei is confused and can't believe that she let him out without even knowing what had happened. He asks her whether she is not afraid that he has really molested the maid. Shangnan stares at him and asks him if he really molested the maid or not. Zhu Fei declines and tells her that it is not possible. He is still a virgin. Being from an ancient background, Shangnan doesn't know what it means to be a virgin, but she wasn't curious to know about it. Zhu Fei clarifies her doubts and tells her that he didn't molest the maid. Shangnan assures him that she believes him. Zhu Fei demands to know why she trusts him so much when she doesn't know the whole story. Shangnan opens up her heart and tells him that they both are naturally of one mind, and if he really likes that maid, she would allow him to take her as a concubine. Zhu Fei is thrilled to know that he can still have a concubine. His thoughts run wild over the evil feudal society that really leads people to degenerate. Shangnan explains that everyone in the world thinks that Huangfu Shangnan is a shrewish woman, thinking that she values her face as a marquis. But her Marquis of Zhenbei House stood for 100 years, and how can a few gossips shake the military merits? Shangnan doesn't want someone who is a soft and weak superfluous son-in-law, she wants a husband who can be of one mind with her. She doesn't care if he takes a few concubines if they can be of one mind. Zhu Fei wonders whether Huangfu Shangnan is righteous, sensible, and beautiful. A woman like her can only be matched by a man who only loves her for the rest of his life. And so Zhu Fei declares that as long as he's Shangnan's husband, he'll not take a concubine. He tells her what had exactly happened today. On hearing the truth, Shangnan gets extremely furious. She destroys the table in front of her, leaving Zhu Fei in fear. Shangnan now knows that the #1 expert of the Great Yan Kingdom is really not just a talk. She promises Zhu Fei that she'll handle it all by herself and tells him not to worry about this matter. A servant approaches Shangnan and tells her that there is a box of magical objects in the woodshed. She doesn't know what to do with them. Shangnan inquires about the magical objects, and Zhu Fei speaks out that it could be the beer that he brought over. Shangnan looks at him curiously and wonders about the term beer. Zhu Fei thinks deeply about how he crossed over again, and it seems that every time he crosses over, he can bring something in his hand. The ginseng, the beer, if he is guessing it right, he is not crossing over at all, but he's traveling between the two different worlds. He continues to think that if he can travel between the two worlds and can also bring things with him, this would be great. Zhu Fei can take back buckets of Ganoderma, ginseng, and other rare stuff like these and sell them and earn at least millions. There are also rare treasures in the Marquis Mansion, any one of which can be sold for sky-high prices. Zhu Fei dreams of being rich overnight. He is confident that after all this, all the moats standing in the way of his senior sister and him will be filled up. Zhu Fei is excited, and now is the time when he can make a fortune. To get rich instantly, Zhu Fei decides to raid the inner treasures of the Marquis Mansion. He calls out for housekeeper Fu and asks him to come over. Uncle Fu obediently comes to serve him and receive Zhu Fei's orders. Zhu Fei orders the old slave to take him to the inner treasury of the Marquis Mansion. He tells Uncle Fu that he wants to take a good look at the inventory of the Marquis treasures. Uncle Fu agrees at once and is ready to take him to the inner treasury. Zhu Fei gets excited and thinks that the treasures of the Zhenbei's mansion that has been standing for 100 years, even if it can't rival the country, it wouldn't be any less. Uncle Fu takes him to the room, and they stand before a huge door. Zhu Fei continues to think about the treasures. He decides that he'll take a Longan pearl, a blood jade wrench, or anything that shouldn't be too much. Of course, he doesn't want to be caught. Zhu Fei recalls about the last news he heard. If he was not wrong, the blood jade wrench was auctioned for tens of millions. The door opens, and Uncle Fu asks Zhu Fei to please have a look. Zhu Fei feels offended at once because the great inner treasury of the Marquis Mansion had absolutely nothing. Zhu Fei gets annoyed and blames housekeeper Fu as the one who emptied the inner treasury and wanted to set him up again. Uncle Fu pleads to Zhu Fei that he wouldn't dare to do such a thing even if he had 8 guts. Zhu Fei asks him to explain what's going on here and why the inner treasury of the Marquis Mansion is empty. Uncle Fu asks Zhu Fei to calm down, and he begins to explain that other monarchs and marquises are indeed rich, but their marquis is very thrifty. Shangnan has invested all her money in the army, which has made the Kasheng Iron Cavalry the elite of the Great Yan Kingdom. But even after doing all this, the current emperor still doesn't trust the Marquis, and other aristocratic families are also targeting the Marquis everywhere. Zhu Fei feels proud of Wang Fu Shangnan that she has taken on so much. Zhu Fei then asks housekeeper Fu to give him the account books of the mansion as well as the items from various shops. He wants to go through all the books and accounts. Housekeeper Fu assures him that he'll go and prepare it immediately. Zhu Fei is disappointed and wonders why it is so difficult to dream of getting rich. After some time, Zhu Fei again calls out for the housekeeper. Uncle Fu tells him that the account books are still being complied and that he'll get them shortly. Zhu Fei tells him there's no rush and to take his time, and that he wanted to ask him about something else. Zhu Fei directly tells him that he may find it difficult to understand if he tells him about ginseng and instead just tell him where he can find a lot of weed around here. Uncle Fu struggles hard to understand what exactly his son-in-law is asking for. Uncle Fu takes Zhu Fei outside the capital to fetch what he wants. Zhu Fei is overjoyed to see all the rare stuff. There's 20-year-old ginseng, 50-year-old Ganoderma lucidum, and there's the blood ginseng too. Zhu Fei couldn't believe his luck at finding all these rare materials here. And then he also finds Long Yangseng there too. Zhu Fei jumps in excitement, and another servant asks Uncle Fu about his head being okay. They both think that he's gone crazy. Uncle Fu tells the servant that he doesn't know much about Zhu Fei. It may be his hobby, and he tells him to get used to it. Zhu Fei tells both of them that after picking, they'll go home. Zhu Fei offers boxes full of his rare treasures to Uncle Fu and tells him to carry these boxes of herbs to his bedroom later. Suspecting something is wrong, Uncle Fu once again confirms whether he has to carry it to Zhu Fei's bedroom. Zhu Fei thinks carefully that if he wants to take these back with him when he travels back, he can only do it when he has all this stuff with him at that time. If he doesn't put it in the bedroom, he won't be able to take it with him when he crosses over. With this, its third part ends here. So if you like the video, then hit that like button and leave a comment for the next part. Most important, subscribe and press the bell icon for notification. Rest, I will meet you in new video till then, bye.